Hi guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be painting this pair of lips that I drew using these Temu uh, watercolors. They look like the Kuretake Ganda and Tombi set, and this picture actually came from a picture that I drew on my Instagram. Right here, I printed it out. That's my Instagram if you guys want to go follow. But yeah, just spraying these down and getting ready to use them. And here we are. Oh my god. First I am wetting the paper because if you wet the paper, the paint tends to flow a little bit better. It's just a better experience. As you can see, I let it dry and I kept using the wrong brush to do this. I will get a better brush, I promise, I swear. But this drawing is if you guys can't tell, it's um lips with honey dripping down them. Kind of reminds me of that TV show Teresa, where it's like the women have either lips with honey or lips covered in poison, you know, that kind of thing. It just reminds me of Teresa. But honestly, for how deep the color on the page was, it was super vibrant, which I mean isn't horrible. It's actually pretty decent, especially for cheap watercolors. But it showed like a yellow ochre kind of color. So when I got this lemon yellow color, I was a little bit confused, and uh, and I was like, wait, isn't this supposed to be darker? And I I genuinely did not. I know I'm saying this so early. I genuinely did not really like these because they dried so textured, and they really reminded me of the Ross watercolors. Remember those, like, because like the yellow specifically, if it didn't matter how many layers I put on there, it did not get dark. It didn't get deep. It didn't turn into a yellow ochre kind of color. It just turned slightly brighter. And right now I'm going into a deeper, like actual yellow ochre kind of color, and trying to blend. But as you see, why these reminded me of the Ross watercolors, they just like sit on there, and the paper's still wet. It's still wet, and it doesn't bloom or doesn't like go on, or at least the yellows don't. Later on, the reds kind of do, but the yellows don't. They just like sit there, and they don't want to blend in and bleed and bloom into each other. They just like sit there and just uh exist. And I did, though I didn't let the paper dry. It was still wet, so it was weird that I had to go back in with a fresh brush and just blend it out myself, like manually. Usually watercolors are just like you put two colors together and they just like melt into each other. So it doing this was weird. See, like it comes out so bright, but then the second you blend it out or like you move it, it becomes so light. And I was just so confused because I've never seen this happen with a watercolor. Sorry about the formatting changing. I was figuring out what would work. I'm sorry. I'm the worst YouTuber ever. I know it. But honestly, this wasn't as hard as the um, Ross watercolors. It really wasn't. Compared to those, this was a cakewalk. It was so easy because you kind of already know how to use these. But I feel like the Crayola watercolors would work better than these because the darker shades did not really blend together with the later. Well, this one did, but the other one didn't, and I blended it a crazy amount. And you really had to add tons and tons of water because the pan, even though they're huge, generous with it it just stayed dry. No, yeah, it would dry down. It wouldn't stay wet, and it just wasn't. super nice to play with, and it just left the paper feeling very kind of gross. It felt like, oh, look at my heat gun, look at my heat gun, drying it. But it left the paper feeling like very chalky and not the greatest. It just did not complement the paper. And this is 100% cotton watercolor that I got for like $10. It wasn't that expensive, but it ruined the paper kind of. It just didn't make it feel good, and it wasn't the best material to use on. But and but even though the yellows were not great, the reds and the teeth, well, they were actually pretty decent. Like they weren't horrible. They actually blended a whole lot better. But going into the reds, I was expecting the same thing, so I was just like layering and layering. And I just have to say that a lot of these colors look so similar because I mean they're right next to each other, but one is way darker and the other one's so much brighter. But like you can't see that dimension, that like you can't see that depth. And I went over these like 5, 6 times, and I really diluted them. But all that dimension I was working on barely helped. So I decided to move on to the inside of the mouth and get that done, and just get everything else looking decent, or trying to find other shades. I found this one that when I used inside the mouth, I put it over the lips, and it was just so nice. And blending the black and the red, well, pinky red, was actually so much easier than I thought it would be. It was actually one of the better blends that I was working on, and I decided to use it on the mouth and the lips, and I feel like it's such a better color. And the teeth, I just grabbed the light gray, and it's actually pretty easy. And again, working back on the lips, and honestly, at first I started using this white gel pen, but then the paper got so weird, so I had to use white acrylic paint on it. And honestly, it was a good call because I get to make these chunky highlights, and it was just so much fun to make the highlights. Like, I feel like it let me get to that. It let me get that depth I wanted. Thank you for watching.